Welcome to the InStory Show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and our theme this season is Out of the Blue, a whole new way to find your voice, tell your story, and share your wisdom with the world. And today I am thrilled to welcome InStory expert Delia Horwitz. Hi, Delia.
Hi, Devorah.
So before we dive in, I'm going to read a little bit about Delia. So Delia's captivating stories show how she applies over 3 decades of taking and teaching therapies, workshops, books, and online courses to overcome her challenge of early childhood trauma, 2 divorces, failed businesses, a cancer diagnosis, and treatment, moving to a new location, starting a new relationship in her 60s. She is author of 4 books, founder of a community leadership program, and over 3 decades as a leadership coach and group facilitator. And we are lucky to have her here with all that wisdom now. So I would love for you to give us a little bit of background of kind of your journey that has led to a really powerful out of the blue story that I know because you've shared it with me, and I was like, I want you to share this story. So give us just a little picture of who you are and the journey you've been on.
Okay. First, though, I want to really acknowledge you because you have been such a big part of my journey. Listening to your programs the last 3 years has allowed me to really do what you say, which is come out of my shell, live my purpose. Yes, I had 3 decades of teaching and learning, and I did all that stuff. But, inside, I never felt quite right. I thought there was something wrong with me. And when I was very young, in the midst of all that trauma, every night I would make a wish on, starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I would always wish one day I want to be happy. So I had a very clear intention. And even through all that craziness and messiness and horribleness, I always had this thought that one day I would be happy. And that's probably why I took all those workshops and those courses. But it really took kind of an out of the blue experience to get me serious. It's almost 10 years ago. You want me to go into the story?
I do.
Yeah.
I always want people to go into their story.
Well, I think having the intention is always kind of at the core of whether things can happen or not. One thing is intention, the other thing is tools. And so I'm hoping people will start believing that they really can change their narrative. They really can live the dream that's inside their heart. And that's why I'm really excited about offering these tools, which also came to me out of the blue. But the thing that happened is I was going through my second divorce. I had had a failed business recently. Had just been on Social Security, and I was kind of freaked out. The marriage was 30 years, and I was kind of feeling like an amputee for a few months. And then there was this one day in May of 2013, and all of a sudden I had this thought out of the blue that said, "Oh, what, Delia, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it through this. You're going to be okay."
Wow.
And you know what? Let's go get a pedicure to celebrate. So Friday afternoon, about 4 o'clock, and I had a pedicure, and I'm sitting there with my nails drying, and the phone rings. And on the other line, I hear, "Delia, this is Elizabeth from your doctor's office. The lab just called. You have high numbers. You have to go to the emergency room right now." It's like, who is it? Who are you trying to call? So this is Elizabeth from your doctor's office. The lab just called. They said you have high numbers and you have to go to the emergency room right now. I said, "Oh, well, first of all, I'm not going to the emergency room. And second of all, let me talk to the doctor." "Well, she's not available. She's with patients." Okay, what high number is it?" "I don't know. The lab just called. She said you have to go to the emergency room." So I'm thinking to myself, what? So I called the lab. I had been to the lab that morning to get an annual test for thyroid medication, which I've been doing for years, right? And I wasn't sick. That's why I said to her, "I'm not sick. I'm fine. What are you talking about?" So I called the lab and I said, "I want to come in and retake the test. There's got to be some mistake." And he said, "Well, we don't usually make mistakes, but go ahead." So I went back. It's now almost 5 o'clock on Friday of Memorial Weekend. He takes the blood. He says, "I'm going to send it right over across the street." And I can't remember what happened next, but it still kind of pinches me a little bit. But oh, I know what happened. The doctor did call me, and she was very abrupt. And she said, "The reason I told you to go to the emergency room is you either have a raging infection or leukemia."
Oh my gosh.
So I thought to myself, well, I don't have leukemia. I feel fine. So I called my friend and I said, "Listen, I got to go to the emergency room. I've got some kind of infection. Will you come with me?" She said, "Sure." So I'm getting dressed to go to the emergency room, and the phone rings. And he says, "Hi, this is the pathologist from the lab." And I said, "Oh, it's okay. I'm on my way to the emergency room." And he said, I remember it so clearly, he said, "You don't have to go to the emergency room. You have B-cell lymphoma." It's like, "What's that?" He says, "It's cancer of the blood."
Wow.
Now, I was such a positive person. I'm teaching all this positive thinking stuff. I was the last person in the world any of my friends would think I would get cancer. And I wasn't sick. I had no symptoms.
Wow.
So that was a life-changing, out of the blue moment. And
Wow.
actually, what happened was, for the next 3 months, they couldn't figure out what type of leukemia it was. Some aspects of the cells, he said, looked very aggressive and very dangerous, but other aspects didn't. So they took a biopsy. They sent my cells off to the author of the book on all the kinds of things, to Stanford, et cetera, et cetera. So for 3 months, I thought I might be dying.
Wow. Wow.
My marriage was over, my business was over, I didn't need to earn money. I was on Social Security. So I started planning where I was going to go to die.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really trippy. It was a really hard experience. Um, anyway, I'll cut this story short by just saying I still had no symptoms. Unfortunately, the doctor said, yes, I had a very high white count, dangerously high. But he said, "You don't have any symptoms. Why should we give you a medicine that could make you sick? If you're not sick, let's just watch it." So every month I went for a blood test for almost 2 years. You can imagine what I went through every month. But finally, I did have symptoms, and I did start getting treatment, and that abated the white count. And it wasn't chemotherapy, it was some kind of infusion, but we still didn't know till after about 3 or 4 years. He finally said, "I think we can safely say that this is a maintenance leukemia. It's not going to kill you. I have people that have that kind for 30 or 40 years, and you'll probably die from something else."
Wow.
But during that time, here's why it was a gift. It was a horrible experience to go through. I don't recommend it, but I kind of do, because I started looking at what's going on inside me that I knew I needed to clean up my food and toxic environment, and which I was already a really clean person. But I started looking at what is the energetic of this, the immune system, white cells. So what do white cells do? Is they start populating themselves when they think there's an enemy in the midst. When there's
Wow.
something in our body that isn't us, the white cells attack it and try to get rid of it. So I started realizing, who am I underneath my masks and underneath the identities that I developed in order to survive in a situation that was not receptive to an enthusiastic, verbal, energetic young girl like me. I would open my mouth to give my opinion and I'd get slapped.
Mhm.
And you've talked about that. So listening to you the last 3 years has really helped me realize that I'm not who I was told that I was. And so I started taking responsibility for my thoughts and changing them, and discovering what the true narratives are about who I am, that I do have something to say. I mean, I was slapped so hard for speaking my mind that at age 20, I had a 3-position bridge put in because the teeth were so damaged.
Okay.
I was told, part of my childhood trauma is that at 7, my mother was taken away to a mental hospital, and where she was given shock treatments and drugs. And, that was it for the rest of her life. But when I was 7 years old, my wicked stepmother would say to me, when I would be emotional, and you know how emotional I am, she would say, "Get a hold of yourself or we'll send you to live with your mother."
Oh,
Well, I had visited the mental hospital when I was a child, and believe me, that was not a place I wanted to go. So I got a lot of conditioning, and I started learning about Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and epigenetics and how to change your brain and how to rewire. And I learned how to rewire my brain. So here I had, over 3 decades of all these tools and techniques and methods for, creating the life you want, but I hadn't really applied them in the way that I did when I thought my life was at stake.
wow.
So
Wow.
I didn't change my stories from a rational perspective. I really dug deep and used so many of the tools that I'm going to be sharing in my free gift So many of those tools I used to literally save my life. And I will tell you, yesterday I saw the oncologist. My white count has been normal for 15 months. I feel great. I have absolutely no trace of it.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's what unbelievable timing that here you are telling this story in a moment of confirmation
Yeah.
of true healing,
Yes.
you know, and here you are. And so when you reflect back on that story, is there something that you feel was one of the most significant things that you did while you were going through that that helped you s- come out of it so positive?
I think a turning point was when I watched a video series called Radical Remissions, a woman that did research on people that were told they were going to die and medical had nothing else for them, but they didn't. They recovered and they thrived. She's got a book out called I can't remember. Anyways, blah, blah, blah. If you look up Radical Remissions, and so I watched that video series, and people had cancer and all kinds of different things, and there were 9 areas. They each did something different, but they all did something in 9 areas. Food, supplements, social circle, spirituality, exercise. Different areas of life. I've known this stuff, Devorah. I've known it and I taught it forever, but it took thinking my life was at stake to get serious about applying this to myself. But when I watched that, I thought, okay, if these people did it, I can do it.
Mhm.
That's what's happened from watching all your interviews the last 3 years. If these women can do it, I can do it. So I have crawled my way out of the old stories that I was told about who I was and the role for women and blah, blah, yada, yada, and all that stuff. And I have crawled my way out by taking accountability and knowing that I have choices.
Mhm.
Every moment is a choice. How I think, how I eat, where I go, who I'm with, and taking charge of my choices. That's my big message is people are the directors of the movie in their mind. And when we forget that,
Yeah.
it feels like crap.
Yeah. I literally had someone recently say this, like, you get to choose, if you run into it, I can't do it, I won't do it, I can't, whatever you can say, I choose
Yes.
to say I can't do it, or like as soon as we grab hold of that, it's like then we're not in the throes of something outside of our choices. And but we were just as kids, we didn't have choice.
Well, and
So
also,
many areas.
I'm sorry, we're also so tuned to thinking about things that we have to get out of our minds
Mm.
in order to be in a different state. And that's what my antidotes that I'm giving out as the free gift is gives people opportunities. Like the other day, I got really stuck with some negative thinking because it happens, but I don't stay there. So I
Right.
turned on some music and I started dancing. And that does it for me, no matter what else is going on in my brain. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's go get a cup of coffee or exercise, or you just have to like stop thinking about the negative thinking. It
Right.
doesn't work.
Right.
Just notice, oh, negative thoughts. I had some this morning getting ready for this interview. My heart was palpitating and I thought, what's going on? And I said, oh, you're afraid that you might not do it right. Ha ha, you are again. I see. Like you say, get in the back seat. I'm driving. Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing is recognizing that I had choice and then actually making different choices.
Right, right. I keep hearing this message from so many different areas, and I remember creating for myself this concept that I call pause, notice, and choose.
Yes.
And it just we have to all take our own medicine, and you have to keep practicing it over and over again. Just like you said, just because you did that before, so then we feel better, we're more elevated, and you make a higher choice, and then you have your fear about your next higher choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really excited. When I was all those years teaching seminars, I was telling people what they should do. And now I've completely switched my way of service, which is I'm just telling people what I do. And they tell me when they hear my stories of how I'm addressing the challenges that I still have, like everybody has, we're human, that it's not about telling people what they need to do. It's just about revealing, here's what I do when I get stuck.
right, right.
It's a
And I
big
think
shift.
it is a big shift, and this is why I'm always so passionate about people telling their stories, right? Because what happens is what you're describing is this opening happens, and somehow that person goes into the story you're telling, and so what's possible to you for you starts to feel possible for the person listening, I think.
Yes, yes. And when I first created my Choice Points blog 2 years ago, I only told my closest friends about it because I wasn't ready to go public.
Mhm.
But as I started taking more and more risks and putting some of my poetry and some real-time descriptions of challenges I was facing, started getting feedback that, gee, this made me think about my situation differently.
Right.
So that's why now with you, with this show and with what I'm doing with you right now as a coach, which you've been amazing, is I'm actually coming out of a decade of hibernation, contemplation, withdrawal. And here I am at 75 years old and I feel great and I'm excited about a new chapter.
I mean, it's so incredible. Like in a million years, first of all, no one would ever believe you were 75 years old. So I'm so glad you said so because we are modeling a whole new vision,
Yay!
right? We're modeling a whole new vision of what getting older is all about and the incredible expansion and possibilities and freedom we have,
Yes,
and I talk a lot about coming out of hiding and daring to be seen.
yes. It only took me 3 years of listening to you to actually do it. Thanks for being the nudge that you are.
Well, and you have all through those years, you keep showing up for another step and another step. And you're also extraordinarily encouraging and perceptive, as someone who's reflected back to me what I put out in the world. And it's led to this expansion and to this sense of this opening, and all of you watching are going to feel, oh yeah, I can do this too, because it's really true. There is this opening happening for all of us right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and what we and we become able to put something much more authentic into that opening.
Yeah. Yeah. And this out of the blue theme. So, you've been coaching with me individually for the last few months to help me really, do my final shifting and really the shaping. And I thought I was writing a memoir when we started talking and compiling my stories. And what you said to me was, you need a framework. You have all this wisdom from your 30 years of therapies and methods that you've been teaching and learning. You've got hours, thousands of dollars and hours that you're going to save people, but you need a framework. And I must have had that on the back of burner for like a month or so and like, a framework. And I had on my to-do list, brainstorm framework. And one night about, what was it, 3 weeks ago, I couldn't sleep. And we had a call the next day. And I thought I better prepare for the call with her. So I was looking at my notes and, oh, yeah, I need to have a framework. I haven't brainstormed the framework. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, literally, I could not write fast enough at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was antidotes for negative thinking, A to Z. And I just started writing. A is for aware, B is for breathe, C is connect, D is decide, E is express, F is forgive, G is be grateful. It just, the whole thing, and personal stories about each one I wrote down, and an image for each one. And it just was literally out of the blue. But I had an intention to receive a framework. And those are the two parts I think that are really important for people, is to be clear on what it is you really want in your heart. That's what it was for me. I want to be happy one day. And for me, happiness is creative expression and being of service.
Yeah, yeah. It's so true that we can squish it down. I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, and he's now walks around going, "I'm so happy. Are you so happy? Are you so happy?" We just crack up because we get to go, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah." Because maybe I was having a moment where I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Are you so happy?" So these moments where you get your awareness expanded, right, is they're so, like, we love these moments more than anything. And one of the things that you are doing now, because you're going to give that whole thing that came to you as a free gift, and it's amazing, that stuff that comes to us out of the blue from that higher realm, it's so powerful. And one of the things we're learning is that we can shape it and share it, that it's the real deal. Because I think a lot of times we get this stuff that comes to us and then we just don't tell anybody about it. We love it, but we don't think anyone else will love it.
Yeah.
And it's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And it hasn't, it isn't always easy. I mean, like this morning, my heart was beating and I was, scared. Like, oh, I mean, but just remembering that we have choice, even if we can't see what the choices are, when I just remember, okay, it's going to be fine. Devorah is a friend. I started like telling myself the truth. Hey, you love doing interviews. You haven't done one for 10 years, but you used to love them. So, it's safe to come out. I mean, what are the phrases, that I have in my default phrases that I can pull out? So I'm excited about sharing the tools, and they're going to be easy to use because they have a fun image and a one word, and then just like a 1 or 2 sentence, sort of like the cliff notes of the whole deal.
Well, so okay, since you're already starting to talk about it, so talk a little bit more about, like, I love that you told the process of how they came to you, and you can say a little bit more about how you, like, a couple of a couple of them, what they are, a little of how you use them, because this process of having something come to you, you already said the having an intention for a framework, and then you stayed still long enough to receive it also.
Yes.
And so just that ability to be present to receive is also really important. And then not to forget about it.
You
Right?
don't let us forget, Devorah.
Well,
You
that's
don't let
true.
your people forget.
Yes, if you're in my world, I won't let you forget
I
about it.
choose to watch and listen to everything you say. I don't read much, a lot of what I get, I unsubscribe, but I listen to because I knew my intuition guided me that this is a woman that can help me because she keeps telling me I can and I need to and I should and I have to and she'll help me.
And it's so true.
So true. Yeah.
It's so true. We sometimes need somebody else to reflect back our greatness, because I always say we're a little invisible to ourselves. Like, we seem so normal to ourselves that sometimes you need someone else to say, that's amazing. You're like, oh, really? That was easy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's a kit. It's an antidotes to negative thinking, A to Z kit. Little instruction 1-page sheet on how you can use them. Then there's just a 1 or 2 page of each of them listed. And there's a worksheet so that you can actually kind of track your progress. And then I'll just show them. It's kind of in process, but you can cut them into cards, like a deck of cards that you can use and shuffle. You can just pull one, to when you can't think, when that negative thinking grabs hold, I can't always make a choice, but I can pull a card, and like, okay, so here's connect. Focus on what will calm you, your heartbeat, a soothing phrase, or a safe person's eyes. Because if I'm really upset and I do something like that, just focus on my breathing, it takes me out of my brain. All of these tools are actions you can take that take you out of your brain so that you can remember the truth, because our brain only stores past information. Our brain only stores past information. So if we stay in our brain, we're going to be stuck in old habits. We have to, like how I rewired my brain about the cancers. First of all, I never told people that it was cancer or that it was leukemia. I only said the fact, which was I have a high white count. I did that for several years. It's like, don't buy into the prevailing myth. Separate facts from tracks, I like to say. What's the fact of the moment, not the track from the old recording? So that's how people can use them. It includes those 4 pieces. And it works because I got stuck last week and I thought, oh, I need a tool. What tool? I had to use 8 different tools. First I put on music and started. No, first I tried humor. That didn't work. Then I tried something else. And then I put on music and started to dance. And that was good. And then I said, oh, I need help. So I asked Michael, help. So he did a little process with me. And then turns out I started crying because I was like 2 years old. I can't do this. I'm too small. And then it was like, oh, I am too small. This is too big. I need help. And that's when I contacted your assistant to help me create the cards, because I wasn't able to figure it out. And it was like, oh, it changed. It rewired my brain. I don't have to do everything myself.
Right.
was the case when I was a kid because people weren't there to, dad left, mom was committed to a mental hospital. My first husband, got divorced. My second, I was like, I just have never had experience of that kind of support until my current relationship. And
That's
my
another beautiful thing, that you're in this beautiful relationship.
and he showed up a year after the cancer diagnosis.
Wow.
I thought he was an angel that came to help me die.
Wow.
He's
Wow.
loving and nurturing and tender. And it's because that's how I am with myself now. That's
Wow.
why I attracted that kind of relationship, because I'm not judging myself like I used to. I'm
Right.
safe in my own skin. My white cells can relax
Wow.
and I can finally be happy and
Wow.
peaceful and content.
Wow. Yeah. And what's so beautiful, Delia, about what you've created with this A to Z kit is that even when we hit these places that are so beautiful, something happens and kaplooey, you feel some old thing. The difference is, and you're going to get from Delia another really powerful tool that contains a whole bunch of tools. We have tools now to shift out of it. And
Yeah.
this is a big difference, because as soon as you see, oh, look at that, you're not in it. And you have a choice to choose a tool to get out of it. And that is what is so brilliant about what you've created, this kit, because it will allow you to be much more curious and creative about how to shift out of a negative spin cycle moment.
Get out of your mind.
Right. Right. Out of your mind is now a much better concept than it used to be, huh?
Blow your mind, right? Change your mind. We can change our mind. Joe
Right.
Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, the rewiring, all the science is coming out now. That's what I did, is I rewired my brain about who I am and how I can be in the world. And unfortunately, it was because I thought my life depended on it, but it was a heck of a motivation. I hope that doesn't happen for our listeners, that they do it before something like that
Right.
happens.
Well, that is part of what's happening now, is that we are opening each other up so that we don't, those of us who've gone through really hard things, like someone who's gone through something like that, you become a teacher that allows someone to walk a path that you've already made, so they don't have to just power through so hard. Um, we don't know what our choices are, what we get or whatever, but we have tools now. We have the ability to share our tools with each other and our wisdom with each other. And that is just something so extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah, we do have choices in each moment. We do have a choice, and we just need to remember that.
Right. And we can find each other now. Like,
Yeah,
here I am, here we found each other, and here all of you are watching us. And so when you click the link and get Delia's free gift, you'll be able to email her back, or you'll be able to hear from her.
yeah,
Stay connected, because every step you take to share, oh, this worked, or I use this, and you can pop into the InStory World Facebook group and share, did you use one of the A to Z tools? Which ones do you already know about? Which is a new one did you try? Because we
yeah.
would love to hear from you.
Yes, in fact, thank you for saying that, because my vision is that as people tell me about what tools they use, I want to add to this kit and expand it more and more. And fortunately, I don't need to make money from this, so I plan on offering it for free. And when they give the email to get the kit, they'll also be subscribed to the blog. And there's lots of stories already, my poetry and stories already on the blog. There's one that says, going back in time, or it's about time or something, that describes what I did to change a childhood traumatic memory that has shifted so much else in my life. So there's specific examples on the blog post, which is called
Exactly.
Focus
I'm
Point.
so glad you mentioned that, because not only are you going to get her kit, but you're going to get access to her whole blog. And the stories really are amazing. They really do what you said in the beginning, Delia, which is give people a sense of what's possible by hearing what you did.
Thanks.
They really are very moving, uplifting, humorous, sometimes surprising, and deep and powerful.
It's
So
been a journey to own that gift. It's been a real journey. Thank you for your help.
yeah, it is truly my honor. And I think that is how we each feel when something we do makes a difference to someone else. We really do feel honored,
Yeah.
and we really feel honored to make a difference for each other. And that is part of, I think, how we begin to gain the courage to come out of hiding, is realizing that it's not our ego, it's that we're in service to something bigger than ourselves. You know, so
Agreed.
yeah. So,
I
all
love.
right, we're gonna wrap up, but leave us with a few last thoughts before we finish off.
I'm looking at my wall, and I have a collage, my vision board, and in beautiful pink with flowers on a bicycle, because I learned to bicycle a couple of years ago. Live your dream.
Mm.
Live your dream.
Yeah, and
It is possible.
it is possible, and if this is any indication, it's the reminder that you don't have to get through the bumps alone, right? Because we make such a difference for each other. So click the link, get Delia's free gift, use the tools, read her blog, and connect with her, and feel that you aren't in this all by yourself.
Yeah. I hope to help to save people the time and aggravation, and the money and the hours, that I spent to figure some of this out. I've learned a thing or two. I'm happy to share.
Right. And I've been using the image of a path often, and it's like someone made a path for us and we went on it and it helped us. Right. There's your path. I know. And that beautiful, and your beautiful banner back there. And we now start, then we feel like, okay, I'm walking a path now. And then you realize, okay, now I'm forging a path so that the next person can walk the path that I'm creating.
Mm,
Right. And it's a very powerful and beautiful image to think about. And it's perfect with your beautiful forest behind you. And when I often walk on the path in the forest, I feel that someone came here and made this path so I can walk here. And that's
nice.
what you're doing. You're making a path so someone can walk without having to bushwhack,
It's a great
thorns,
image.
right?
It's a great image. Yeah. Great image.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Delia. It is just a
Thank
joy
you.
and an honor to walk this journey with you and to invite all of you into this world, into the world of your story, of InStory, of trusting yourself. And as I always say, in farewell is remember to go out in the world, share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, everybody.